I'm so pleased to welcome you to our 27th annual state convention. Now, I don't know about you, but that's amazing to me. You think that's amazing? Do you agree? I'm kind of excited about this convention because it's the very first time that we have featured pure Michigan talent on our speakers platform. We've never done that before. It's kind of amazing, I guess. And over the years, we have from time to time had the secular leaders of various groups come and introduce themselves and say a few words. But this is our first official year or our first time to officially recognize the secular community. And I thought it was really time that we did that. Because here in Michigan, we really do have an amazing secular community. And because the secular community is so diversified with so many different attitudes about how they want to run their group, it's just an amazing thing because they can pick anything that they want to pick with mission statements that are there. Some of these folks are here today. So humanists, we have a place for humanists. We have a place for skeptics. We have a place for agnostics. We have a place for free thinkers. We have a place for atheists. We have a place for science enthusiasts. We have a place for godless gunnies. You ever hear of that one? There actually is a group of us atheists, humanists, skeptics, science enthusiasts who belong to a godless shooting club. What I really do want to say is bravo to Michigan because we do have this secular community that's worthy of a celebration. So if we view ourselves as a community, I keep thinking that perhaps it's time for us to maybe ask ourselves some questions. One question that we might want to ask ourselves is, as a secular person, what is it that I value in my personal and public life? And as a secular person, what do I have to contribute? And as a secular person, what is my goal? Well, I think we can probably all agree that our goal is separation of state and church. Am I right? And I think that your presence here this morning is a demonstration of a contribution, and maybe you can do more in other ways, or maybe this is it. But whatever contribution, it's valuable. And I think perhaps as secular persons, what we value most in our personal life is casual acceptance of our secular posture. And I hope you know what I mean. Casual acceptance. People don't have to respect us, they don't have to join us, but if they will just casually accept our posture, it would be wonderful. And I think what we value in our secular public life is probably freedom from religion. Yeah? Darwin. But now, after we discover those things, now I have a really big question. And I think the really big question is, do we, as a diverse secular community, have the capacity to realize our objectives? And that's really a big question and one for us to really think about. I'm inspired by Martin Novak. I don't know if you've read his book or not, but it's a great book. It's called The Super Cooperators. It talks about altruism, evolution, and why we need each other to succeed. It is said that Martin looks beyond the selfish gene and invites us to think afresh about evolution. And in the end, Martin says, and I agree, victory is a Darwinian thing. Who said Darwin? Victory is a Darwinian thing. It's a mathematical thing. It's a science thing. And it's a political thing. And so if we take a look at the LGBT community, they seem to have figured that out a long time ago, which probably is responsible for their successes. The lesbian, bisexual, gay, transgender, men and women have only one thing in common, and that's realizing their objectives. They remain self-serving as independent groups, but unified in their common goals, which extends to a uniform logo and their eagerness to unite for pickets and rallies. And of probably the greatest importance, they are unified as political activists in their legal efforts because that's where it's all at for us, to remove the religious shackles that keep them from their constitutional, moral, and ethical rights. Now here's the thing that amazes me. We, the secular community, and the LGBT community, we're all riding the same bus. LGBT community, that side of the bus has pulled into the station, and they're getting married, openly running for office, establishing anti-bully laws, and exposing and all but ending the conversion or reparative therapy. And they're recognized by the media as a voting bloc. That's just a new thing for them. But the secular side of the bus almost appears to be standing still. So, what are we doing wrong? What are we not doing? Well, we're in luck because today we've got 4 speakers who are going to help us answer those 2 questions. And they will target for us our greater issues and offer ideas and options for solidarity. They will take us on a journey about those things I spoke about moments ago. You know, the Darwinian thing, the mathematical thing, the science thing, and the political thing. Now, as an important side note, I would like to encourage all of us to be careful that we do not casually practice religious discrimination or intolerance. We should work on developing respect for those organizations and the growing number of sectarian folks who vigorously defend separation of state and church. They are, in the end, our powerful allies, and they are painfully aware of the fact that when religion and politics intersect, the potential for abuse runs high. And I'm thinking, of course, of organizations such as the secular Americans United for Separation of State and Church. Hal Downs will be our second speaker this morning. He is a theist, and he is the state director for Reverend Barry Lynn, and these people champion separation of state and church. I want to take a look at what's new, and you probably all know what I'm going to say. What's new in the world of atheism is atheist megachurches. How many of you know about the megachurches? Okay, well, here's the deal. It appears that the idea was born in Great Britain by comedians, 2 comedians, Jones and Evans. And now we're seeing these mega churches springing up, not only in Great Britain and Australia, but also here in Los Angeles, San Diego, Nashville, New York, and I know perhaps a few other places by now. Their motto appears to be, live better, help often, wonder more. And their purpose seems to be twofold. One, they want to establish a camaraderie. You're smiling. You know about this group, don't you, Norm? They want to establish a camaraderie of a congregation without religion. That's one of their goals. The other goal is to demonstrate that atheists are good, patriotic, charitable people. And to prove it, they're starting churches. So, what happens when you go to an atheist mega church? Well, it includes some toe-tapping music, it includes singing, inspirational talks, and some quiet reflection, and the collection plate. So, I don't know how I really want to say this, but I think that most of you know me well enough to know that I'm usually the first person in line to support and encourage any secular group by whatever name or by whatever mission statement. But on this issue, I stand with those who find atheist churches to be a prickly concept. Because, well, I guess because of the thousands and thousands of us, both locally and nationally, have spent years and years and more years trying to push back the idea that atheism is just another religion. I agree with blogger Michael Luciano when he said, there's something not okay about appropriating all this religious language, imagery, and ritual for atheism. The idea that you're building an entire organization around something that you don't support sounds like an offense to sensibility. And I agree with that. Maybe we should, but I do want to say, I do feel certain that the secular community, the Michigan secular community, does have a strong sensibility. And I still want to cling to the hope that we can remain self-serving, independent groups, but at the same time commit unity to our goals. In closing, I'm going to be very brief this morning. We have a full schedule. I would like to say that I feel the Michigan secular community maybe starts to think, or maybe we need to do it nationally or globally, how about a uniform logo, such as what the LGBT community has, their rainbow? Well, and why not a catchy acronym? I've got one, SAFA. You know, SAFA, skeptics, humanists, agnostics, freethinkers, atheists. Well, it could work. So maybe we can all take that as a homework assignment and see what we can come up with the logo, and see what we can come up with a catchy acronym. Am I allowed to give homework assignments? Well, I don't know if I am or not, but I hope I would love for you to take it up. I'd love to see what you have to say, and I bet you all would too. Let's see if we can make that kind of a commitment for 2014 and see what we can do about it. So, what's on my mind today is solidarity and supporting what wins for our cause. Thank you. I want to get right into our program. Andrew Franks is going to be our next speaker, and if you have your program book, you've probably been reading about that. I stumbled upon Andrew Franks because he was active with the Secular Coalition of Michigan, which there's a lot that can be said about that. And Andrew is a doctoral candidate in applied There he is, sitting over there, in applied experimental psychology at Central Michigan University, where he earned his MS in 2012. And his research includes sexuality, politics, and the law, with a primary line of research aimed at understanding and remediating the lack of political acceptance for atheism and secularism in the United States. His teaching includes courses in the development and social psychology content areas, as well as applications of experimental research methods. Today, Andrew, I think, is going to confront the fact that the prejudice against atheists is pervasive, especially here in the United States. And he states that atheists lag behind virtually all other historically disadvantaged groups on measures of social and political acceptance. And I don't think any of us can argue with that, because as we were watching these past elections, we were hearing about the women voters, the Latino voters, the black voters, but nowhere in the scheme of things was the secular vote. 1 out of 4 Americans are secular. We're a huge voting bloc. We're by the millions upon millions. It's time for us to change that. Andrew prides himself on his pursuit of excellence professionally, and it appears that it extends to his personal life, because he has an undefeated record as an amateur fighter, and he holds a level A in skydiving, so I wouldn't suggest we mess around with Andrew. Today, Andrew is going to speak on the anti-atheist prejudice and politics and support for religious bias in public policy. Now, what are the implications for atheist political candidates and secular lobbying groups? Andrew's going to discuss that with us. Andrew Franks.
Okay, thank you all for coming out here this morning. I like that the microphone matches my suit. Not planned, but fortunate. My name is Andrew Franks, and I am from Central Michigan University, where I'm a doctoral candidate in applied experimental psychology, as Arlene was saying. I'd like to thank Arlene for inviting me out tonight, or this morning. I'd like to thank all of you for being here. I'm going to speak about anti-atheist prejudice in politics and support for religious bias in public policy. An overview of my research introduction. First of all, we'll talk about the prevalence of anti-atheist prejudice. We'll compare the acceptance of atheists to acceptance of other historically disadvantaged groups. We're going to talk about differences in the affective content, that is the emotional content, that underlies prejudice against various groups, including atheists. And then we're going to be examining anti-atheist prejudice in a political context. So as we are probably all aware, anti-atheist prejudice is pervasive in the United States. Nearly half of respondents would disapprove of atheists as marriage partners for their children. Atheists are chosen the most often among public polling respondents as the group that does not share their vision of America. The number 2 group is Muslims, who come in 13 percentage points behind atheists on both of these questions. Anti-atheist prejudice is felt by atheists in all areas of their lives. At home, work, school. At home, parents are often disapproving of atheist children. At work, atheists may feel as if they cannot express their views in a genuine manner. At school, many high schools are unwilling to allow their students to start secular or atheist organizations. Anti-atheist prejudice is directed towards those who have no religious beliefs, regardless of whether or not they identify with the atheist label. It's about non-belief in God, more so than the label. And finally, anti-atheist prejudice motivates many atheists to remain closeted. Okay? And the problems include not only expressed hostility towards atheists, but also the expectation that atheists should publicly accept, without question, the privileged status enjoyed by those who are religious. Christians make unsupported claims about the world. They offer prayers which may sound like they're doing something nice for you, but if they offer prayers or religious platitudes, they're really sort of undermining how you feel and what you think is right about the world. But we just kind of smile and grit our teeth, whereas if we offered condolences or some sort of gratitude in a non-religious way towards a religious person, we may receive some hostility. In the face of these assertions made by religious types, an atheist may feel pressure to remain closeted or silent or to dissemble their authentic opinions due to the ubiquity of religion and religious rituals and practices. A reticence to participate in outward displays of religion may be one factor that contributes to anti-atheist prejudice. Religious belief and the rituals and ceremonies surrounding it may act as a social glue that promotes cooperation with those displaying fealty to the in-group. Also, atheists do not believe that, quote-unquote, God is watching. And without that threat of constant supernatural surveillance, without that threat of supernatural monitoring and punishment, religious adherents may think that atheists have no reason to act in a moral way. Furthermore, when Christian conservatives were asked to imagine a life without God, they described a world rife with uncontrolled violent and sexual impulses, filled with paranoia, much like Hobbes' state of nature. Consistent with the view that Christian conservatives would see life without God as being this world of distrust, it has been found through experimental psychological research that distrust is at the core of anti-atheist prejudice. A few examples of some of these studies. First, in one, participants showed elevated levels of disgust towards gay targets, but elevated levels of distrust towards atheist targets, but not vice versa. Participants in another study were more likely to commit a conjunction fallacy, describing an untrustworthy individual as a teacher and X, when X was an atheist, but not a gay person, a Muslim, or a Jewish person. They were just as likely to make that conjunction fallacy with atheists as with rapists. Atheist targets elicited high levels of distrust on an implicit association test, which is a reaction time measure where you are associating a group or a person with either positive or negatively balanced words attached to either liking or trust or disgust, etc. And in a final study, atheists were much less likely than members of other historically disadvantaged groups to be chosen for a high trust position like childcare, but not a low trust position like restaurant server. In contrast, disgust has been found to be at the core of anti-gay prejudice. It's been shown that individuals who are higher in disgust sensitivity, or individuals who have been primed experimentally to have elevated disgust, have more negative reactions towards gay men. Anti-black prejudice, on the other hand, has been found to be primarily motivated by fear. And you can see evidence of that in the legal system, where blacks face arrest, prosecution, conviction, and stiffer sentencing than whites who are accused of the same crimes. And this is especially true when their features are very Afrocentric, as they say. A little note at the bottom. Of course, that's extremely racist caricature from a long time ago, obviously. Still probably not quite as racist as old George H.W. Bush's really Horton-centric campaign ads, for those of you who remember that race-baiting campaign against Michael Dukakis. Okay, so these various ways of looking at the emotional content of these different prejudices against various groups. This is known as the socio-functional approach to prejudice, and it suggests that differences in the emotional content in anti-atheist, anti-gay, and anti-black prejudice is motivated by the different threat that each group is perceived to pose to the majority group. Atheists think we're unpredictable because we don't believe in God, and so we don't have that black and white morality, so we elicit distrust. Gays have a stigmatization because they are perceived to be associated with HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases, and also sexual practices that many people find to be unsavory in the conservative community, and they elicit disgust because of that. And then blacks have the stigmatization because of their associations with levels of violent street crime, and therefore they generate fear amongst those who have bias against them. So all three of these groups that we've discussed so far continue to be victims of institutionalized discrimination, okay? These negative emotions have political consequences. Right? The United States Constitution prohibits religious tests to hold public office, but numerous states have statutes in their constitutions in violation of this protection. For instance, Article 14, Section 265 of the Mississippi State Constitution states, "No person who denies the existence of a supreme being may hold any office in this state." Further, 35 states continue to deny marriage equality for gay couples. And after the repeal of a key component of the Voting Rights Act, state legislators wasted no time enacting voter ID laws that disproportionately disenfranchise ethnic minorities. But there's some good news. Despite this, the 113th Congress includes more ethnic minorities and persons of minority sexual orientation than ever. Bad news, there is still only one non-religious representative who is willing to be open about it. One out of 435 representatives and 100 senators, one member of Congress who is openly non-religious.